Could I do today? I mean, I could do something productive with my day, I guess. I know. How about some custom camera controls? Let's go over my Nikon custom camera controls and my Sony custom camera controls. But first, I think I need to make an overhead rig. I think I've got something for that. Let's check. I need to make an overhead camera rig, and my hat's always crooked. Is it more crooked or is it less crooked? So I need to make an overhead camera rig, but I think I have enough materials around my studio or in the garage or something. I do have some stands that I could put a magic arm to, but that's kind of no fun. So I would rather do something a little bit more interesting and make an overhead camera rig. I'm going to shoot it down and we'll go over all the custom controls and functions of the two cameras that I use when I'm on a shoot. So that is the goal of today. So let's make it happen. I don't think the overhead ladder is the answer. Got skis in there. Got an overhead hockey rack. Not in here. Not where... I'm not gonna find the gold in there. You know what? I think I actually have an idea. So, wait for it. This could work. So this, to all you kids out there who maybe weren't lucky enough to have darkroom photography, this is an Enlarger, well, part of an Enlarger. The top head off of this Enlarger a while back. It's where the light comes in the mirror. I'm missing a screw. You would think I'd be able to somehow make this into an overhead camera rig and hopefully then use it to shoot any of my top-down stuff. I might even re-drill the holes onto this side so then it's not so long, but imagine just holding your stuff right here, filming straight down. I think this is a great idea for repurposing this. I've had that since 2001, since I graduated high school. You do the math. Okay, so what I need material-wise is, so I need to find a way to attach it from the top here. How am I gonna attach it from the top? Shooting straight down, so the camera's gonna face down. Re-drill these screws right here on the side, so then I don't have this huge long thing. I think this is gonna work really well, hopefully. Let's just start with power tools, because you can't go wrong with power tools. Oh God, my toolbox. Come whenever you need something, it's like impossible to find it. I need to find all my bits. You know where my bits are? Okay, we're just gonna wing this one. Battery. Ooh, drill. Drill bits. That's all I need. All we need. Take the ball. Let's go, girls. So I got my drill bits. I got my drills. Let's make some new holes. Took this off of the Enlarger, but the problem that seems to exist is that there's a pin, and the pin is already like attached in here. Idea number two, rather than maybe drilling new holes, I might put the Enlarger back on in this direction. Then I know it's gonna be like a little bit unsupported, but I could put a sandbag on this side, which theoretically could, I don't know, hold it down so I don't smash everything that I love. They're drilled just a little off. Huh. Well, this is starting to fall apart. What if I turn it this way? If you don't like your current plan, then change it. I mean, that's enough weight back there that it almost counterbalances it. But once I get my camera up here, I sure don't want this whole thing now to flip forward, but actually this is pretty great. And then I think that that would probably hold it. Not having to drill anything. These are mine. Valentine's Day gift. Best gift ever. I need to figure out something for the screw going up and down on. Let's see what we got in here. When in doubt, tape it. So I've got this tripod here, and the idea is hopefully this tripod could do the job. It fits perfectly, and it does not slide through the top of the Enlarger here, so that's the first benefit. This Enduro ball head just turns onto the bottom of it, and I really honestly think, whoops. Whoops. Come on now, come on now. You're embarrassing me. How to thread a ball head. That sounds inappropriate. All right. Ooh, look at that. I mean, that works. And I think what I'll do is this will click to the camera and I'll attach it to the side of the tripod, but I mean, heck yeah. And this has been a very long explanation video, but what else are we doing, right? I'm gonna say a big whole lot of nothing. Hopefully learning, hopefully taking this time to learn, get outdoors. Okay, so far, amazing-ish. Tape? I mean, I could use tape. Let's use tape. Why not? I mean, again, why not? Oops. Gaffer's tape is amazing. If you don't own gaffer's tape, you call yourself a creative, get on it. Look at that. Super sturdy. Look at that. Counterbalanced. Gaffer's tape, will it go up? It goes up. But to be super safe about this, I have right here. So I'm going to put it so it can hook onto, and then I'm going to go through and come all the way back around. So if anything happens, hopefully it would catch it before it slams into the ground and breaks everything. So, okay, we finished the overhead rig. Now let's talk about camera controls maybe, hopefully. Let's see what we can get to here. Got the trusty old tape. What else do we have? We put on like a little lock system here, so if everything does collapse, as long as this whole thing doesn't fall down, we should be good. So now let's talk about custom camera controls. So I use custom settings and custom controls on my camera to help make my workflow that much more seamless. I don't want my camera to ever hinder my creative process. I don't want to have to think twice about where the controls are, how I'm working the camera, how I get to a certain setting. And I basically break it down into 3 categories. The first category is I just want to make the camera the easiest I can so it doesn't hinder my process while I'm trying to shoot. So that is my first category. And how do you do that? Well, practice. I really do think that the more you practice, you take the time to learn your camera, then the better you're gonna just be at working your camera, and you're not even gonna think twice about it. That's the best part. If you just take the time and you practice, the more you practice, especially when you get into situations where it's quick, fast-paced photography, editorial style, or for me, you know, I shoot fishing photography most of the time. So for my commercial work, I gotta be quick. I can't ask someone to go and recatch that fish again. So that is my first thing. Tip number 1. The second tip is when I'm shooting still photographs, and this is primarily for still. The whole idea that I do behind the setup on my camera is that I want all the controls, all the most important controls that I make, I want them to be in one hand. I want to be able to do what I need to do and never have to use my other hand if I don't have to. When I'm leaning out over the water, I don't have an option to use my other hand. I might be holding onto the side of the boat. Even when I'm shooting casting, sometimes I have to hold the line of the caster in the other hand. And so when she's casting, it's not getting wrapped around my feet. I want to be able to control the most vital, most important parts of creating an image in one hand, in one camera hand. So we're gonna start off with the Sony camera. 2 most important things to control when I'm shooting is my exposure and my autofocus. That's actually the two most important things for me to control is, am I exposing it correctly? And my other thing is I want to be able to go in and out of focus modes that I need, whether it's either moving my focus point around, face tracking. I need to be able to control those two things from one hand and I can create images. That's the best part. So let's go into this. Sony cameras and Nikon cameras, they all have custom controls. They have buttons that you can set to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And keep this in mind. This is the best practices for myself. This might not be the best practice for everybody, but this is what works for me. And I'm going to kind of just walk you through how I set the camera up. What I think are the most important things. So when I have the camera in my one hand, I want to be able to control my exposure and I want to be able to control my autofocus. That's it. First things first, on the Sony a7R III, I have custom C1 and custom C2. So basically when I have my hand in the camera, right now my shutter speed, I use my back dial for shutter speed. I use my front dial here for f-stop. And those are the exact same on my Nikon. I actually switched the rotation to be very similar to the Nikon, which you can also choose. Custom button 1. So I actually, when I'm shooting and I have my eye up to the viewfinder, I do not want to have to take my eye up to the viewfinder to change my exposure. So my thumb changes my shutter speed. That's pretty normal for most people. My forefinger changes my f-stop. That's also pretty normal for most people. But here's the difference, is I now want to be able to control my ISO if I need it. So how do I change my ISO? What button works best for me to have my ISO as a custom function button is C1. So C1 is my ISO button. So I don't think you can see it on here. I'll try to move it up. But when I press C1, it's my ISO button, and then it allows me with my thumb to scroll through the ISO, increase and decrease my ISO. So when my hand is on my camera, I never have to take it off. I can just press C1 through the viewfinder. I can be looking or on the back of the screen, and I can quickly toggle to the ISO that I need. Button number 2, C2. On this camera, I want to be able to be in complete control of what autofocus system I'm using. So when I'm out shooting, I want to be able to be in complete control that if I'm shooting, say, for example, a landscape scene, and I want to have center weighted area focus, and then all of a sudden some people walk into the scene, or I need to really move my focus point around, I don't want to have to take my hand again off the camera. I don't want to ever have to use my left hand. I just want to be able to do everything with one hand in case I'm in a situation where I'm holding on. It might sound ridiculous, but I find myself in situations where I have to hold on with one hand a little bit more than maybe I want to. So I set custom button C2 as, with my thumb on the center dial, I can toggle through which area, focus area mode I want. And so again, I can have my hand on that camera. I never have to take it off. With my forefinger on my camera, holding it nice and steady, I can press C2, and that automatically brings up the chart here in the focus area mode. And with my thumb, I can scroll to the focus area setting that I need. And then boom, I'm into that focus area setting. Now this takes us to the top of the camera here. I'm shooting and I've already hit the C2 to be my custom focus area mode. Well, I actually like to toggle my focus point around a lot. You know, I get a lot of people ask, well, how did I get that image so sharp? Well, you know, you can focus and recompose, which is something I do a ton. But if you're shooting at a very shallow depth of field, it's not always the best idea to focus and recompose. So with that in mind, if you're shooting in an area mode, similar to expandable flexible spot or focus area spot, I have my thumb set for this joystick to be able just to move my focus point around. You hit in the middle and it will return to center. And that is how I set my focus. So I can override the focus and I can move it around to where I need using the joystick on the thumb on the back of the camera. So far we've covered C1, C2, and how I have the joystick set up to be able to move my focus points. Next button to go over is C4. C4, the little trash can will still be your trash can, but I like to set C4 to popping my EF on and my screen off, or vice versa. Sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating if you're putting your face up to something or your eye up to something and it jumps back and forth. It's doing the best it can, really. Aren't we all? I've actually gone and my arrow buttons into moving my focus point as well. So there's one more way to change your focus area AF mode, and it's actually to hold down the scrolling button and at the same time scroll it around, and you can actually change quickly your focus area mode. So it's super handy to have that extra option. Other than that, I've just left my right and left control to be able to move my focus point, because again, I want to be able to move my focus point if I quickly need to, especially if we're lifting up a fish and you want to hit focus right on the eye of that fish. Well, you do need to move your focus point, because focusing and recomposing will not work very well, especially for tack sharp eyes. So something to keep in mind. So display, I've actually left display as is, so I can toggle through the different display modes. I can get to my histogram, or I can check out to see what frame rates I'm in. My function buttons. So for my function buttons, these are the settings I have already prioritized. I mean, your function buttons are up to you in terms of what you want to do and what you think is easiest. A couple other things, my area AF on button, I use that to lock focus. I like to be able to lock my focus and recompose if I need to. So my AF on is lock focus only. Finally, the C3 button. This might sound crazy, but first of all, make C3 whatever you want, any other thing you want to access. I have made C3 playback. The reason why I have done that is because I have been shooting Nikon for close to 15 years. And well, close to 15 years on a lot of the cameras, well, the Z cameras at least, in the last couple years, the playback button is right here, is right at the top left-hand corner. And I just continually am pressing that button. So why fight it? Just make that button playback. So it is playback. I have two playbacks. It sounds stupid, but I cannot break the habit. I keep trying. You know, it's whatever works for you in terms of whatever you think is the best setup for your Sony camera when you're out in the field. But those are just what I use, and I shoot on location editorial style, and it's a lot of action and a lot of movement. So because of that, I really want the camera to work with me rather than against me. That's the Sony camera. So I'm gonna switch it up here real quick, just show you what my Nikon Z camera looks like. All right, switched it up. I'm now on filming on my Sony over there. Got the overhead rig still going. Really happy with this thing. So just gonna quickly go over the settings on the Z7. It's exactly the same in terms of the idea behind it. On the A7R III, the idea is to be able to access all the controls with one hand without having to take my hand off the controls, and to be as efficient as I can and have the camera work for me rather than against me. On the Z camera, the shutter speed is this lovely dial here. Shutter speed is controlled with my thumb. F-stop is controlled with my forefinger here on the Nikon in front. So again, I can control my exposure with one hand on the camera. Second, my ISO is right here at my thumb, so I can put my finger on the ISO button and I can toggle through, and it allows me to change my ISO, go up and down, and again, I can not have to take my hand off the camera. So, you know, I keep saying the same thing, but like, I truly firmly believe it. If you do not have to take your hand off your camera and you do not have to rely on two hands to take an image, you'll be able to kind of like get yourself into positions or be able to shoot more confidently because you know where your dials are. You're dialed in to your dials. So if we go into the other dials on the Nikon camera, you've got function button 1 and function button 2. It's almost like C1 and C2, but this time they're just on the front. I've got function button 1, F1 on the front of the lens here set up to subject tracking. So unless I'm in auto area AF mode, I believe it really doesn't do anything. So if I'm just in single point or if I'm kind of more in a zone mode, function area button 1 is not doing anything for me. But if I am in auto area AF, I can turn on and off subject tracking on the Nikon. Box that pops up in the middle, I can turn off and on subject display tracking, or subject tracking. So that is super easy to have set up there. That's with my forefinger, off and on. So function button 2, which is the bottom finger down here, or bottom button down here. As you can see, when I do hold my finger on there, I can toggle through my area AF modes. And then if I do take that forefinger and I hold it on there, I can turn my subject tracking on and off. Super simple, super easy. For the Nikon, it's the same as the function button basically. If you press the I button, you can have your custom menu set up to what you want to access and how you want to access it. So, you know, I'm not going to go over this again, but however you want to have that set up, make sure that it works for you to be able to access the quickest controls that you can out of that. In terms of other features on the Nikon, my toggle again allows me to toggle around to where I want to go, but also my joystick pad down here allows me to do the same. Pressing OK or the middle of this will recenter it again. My AF on button on my Nikon is the same as on my Sony. I set it so I can lock the focus point down. So other than that, I mean, those are the settings I have for my Nikon. It's very similar to where I have the concept settings for the Sony, all accessible via one hand to change my control. Last thing I'll leave you with is I really do recommend that you set your custom control buttons. So on the Nikon, it's U3, U2, U1. On the Sony, it's just 1, 2, and 3. Set those to your different frame rates and get them all dialed in. So when you click over to video to 24p, you're already set to like a 50th of a second shutter speed at maybe start at your lowest ISO. So then you're at like a base rate every single time you flip into them. So when you are hybrid shooting, it makes it that much faster to go in between your still images and your video. It just makes you a better photographer and it allows you to get the shot. Happy with this overhead rig, so heck yeah. I'm gonna go have lunch now.